Reunited with some old friends for my 50th birthday to a band thing, and then we had to keep doing it because they'd had to buy some gear.
Yeah.
And we weren't going to stop then. So that the band still's on its way.
Yeah. And so, and what band's that?
That's Rusty Nails.
Rusty Nails. And is that the name that they used to have as well many years ago?
No, years ago we were played working men's clubs in South Yorkshire and stuff like that. In 80s, it was in 80s, and then you'd have sort of guitar bands were at charts, weren't there? So there were like Duran Duran and all that thing, and we were doing Adam and the Ants and Duran Duran and Spandau Valley songs in working men's clubs in South Yorkshire when they paid some decent money. And then
were you in bands before that as well?
Yeah, I'd done stuff before that from being a sort of teenager, but like everybody did,
So you've always been into music and things?
Yeah. It were that moment when you're not really into anything, and you're 14 or 15, and 14, and somebody lends you a Deep Purple album, and you think, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah. And
then from then on in, you just listen to everything you can,
Yeah. So, well, Deep Purple you mentioned, but what were your early influences?
Well, that was first thing that I heard that were any good. It were actually the bass player in band now, Sean, who lent me this Deep Purple album, and then from then on in it was just who were big then, it were Purple, Zeppelin and all them bands. So we used to go see them all, and then I went to see Rory Gallagher.
So you got into it at quite an early age, really?
Yeah, I didn't. It's interesting because well, it's to me, but you don't go. When you try and go back very quickly and go back to early stuff like Charlie Patton and Son House, I didn't like it. Sort of 10 and 12, 15 years later that you start to really get it, and now I can listen to Son House all day and Charlie Patton, So, at first you kind of think it's nothing like blues, because you're working backwards, to the roots of it. It's a big jump to go all the way back at one go.
To electrified rock and everything.
Yeah, it's a big jump to go about my time's up. It's a big jump to go backwards. It's a big jump to go backwards, isn't it? All that one go. And I think a lot of people, even now, youngsters, that will find that kind of stuff hard, to go back and really really get what's going on,
Yeah, I suppose in a way you become educated in the music, don't you? You've got to learn. It's like acquiring the taste for it.
I think it is, like Guinness or whiskey.
Yeah.
You've got to keep trying. Because it's worth it when you get there. It's so worth it when you get there.
You took a break.
The clubs thing were great while we were a bunch of mates going out and playing. And then somebody left, and somebody else joined, and somebody else left, and then it became a bit of a chore, to be honest with you. So I stopped doing it, and then I didn't play anymore.
So how long was that for?
Maybe 20 years.
Gosh, that's a long time.
Yeah, maybe a bit less, but not much less.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I want a guitar, so I bought a little cheap guitar, and then started this. Couple of years after that, let's do this thing for birthday. And what happened was, we were doing that, a friend of ours was singing, and then he stopped doing it. And they made me do words while we could find a singer. Right? And then everybody kept saying, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, just keep doing it. So I ended up doing some solo stuff as well. I went to the Crown of Lights, Mike Night, and did an instrumental. And they said, they said, come back next month, come back next month. So I thought, I'm going to have to learn another song. I'm going to have to learn another song. And you can't play instrumentals all night, even if you're good. So you think, I'm going to have to sing them. And then, I started singing them. And I kept going back there, and that's the only place I played for ages. I kept going back there and doing it, and then eventually you've got enough songs to do sort of half a gig. And I still do now. I think somebody's going to notice in a minute. Somebody's going to notice that this is just a bit of a con, really. What's he doing? Yeah. So until people notice, then I'll just keep doing it. I love it now. It's great. But yeah.
So you've been back into you playing them for about 5 years, haven't you? something like
that.
Yeah, you become really well known. I mean, in that period. You know, wherever I go, if I say Chris Martin, people say, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, that's that other one. I still think I don't know how to get away with that.
You've got a real style as well. It's not just that you're a singer of the blues, but you've got a real stage presence, and there's a whole thing around you, the humour that you bring to it, and the storytelling that you bring to it as well.
Well, that's from nerves. As soon as I sat down in front of a room full of people, I'm still very nervous now when I sit down, and so I just started talking, and it works, and that's just expanded. If somebody says just do half an hour, I can probably squeeze 2 songs in there with the intros.
Yes.
Each one, 2-3 minute songs in there. I've gone out and played blues stuff and the stuff that I do to audiences that perhaps wouldn't necessarily listen to it, but I keep dragging them back in between by talking to them.
You make it
come back, yeah.
Yeah, you make it relevant to people.
It's awkward when you tell a big story that's clearly a lie and people believe it.
It's fantastic.
That is really weird. When
I believe everything you say.
Yeah, that's become a big part of it, and I think that's really, I get quite a lot of work because of that. I mean, I quite often when I've played, people will say, I've right enjoyed that. It's really entertaining, and it's not necessarily just the music, but I think that's important. I think, you know.
I think you're right, and I think that's one of the, you bring a real charm to what you do.
If you look back, the old bluesmen didn't play blues, just blues. That's what got recorded. But they had to earn a living, so they went out and played popular songs of the day for dancers and everything in it, you know, everything under the sun. But when they came out to record them, they didn't want to hear them doing cover versions of show songs and stuff. They wanted them to play the blues stuff, which has been great, marvellous. But they went out and entertained. So I kind of think what I do is kind of in that tradition. It's an evening. People will enjoy the night who wouldn't necessarily listen to that kind of music or whatever. So it's kind of good, you know. Yeah. And then it makes me feel like, you know, I feel good if people have had a good time. You know, one of the first solo performers. So there's been 3 people that have been very influential in it, and it was Michael Messer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's played somewhere soon as well.
Is it Pocklington? He's got the thing.
He's doing a blues workshop.
Blues workshop thing at Pocklington. That's been running for a few years, but that's Michael's running that on his own now. So that's a great weekend.
Yeah.
And that's where I started learning to play slide with Michael there.
Yeah.
And Catfish, Mr. Catfish Keys.
Oh right, yeah. And we saw the other day at Beverley Blues Festival.
Yeah. And a chap called David Carey. Right.
Now there, you've got
to check out David Carey as well, because he's not in the least bit like anybody else.
Right.
Yeah, Dave's great, and those people, I contacted them in one way or another and got help from them, and Michael from the Blues Weekend things. But one of the first solo performers I saw were Catfish Keys at Ripley. And I'll tell you, apart from being an incredible player and everything, and having a great stage presence, he walked on stage at Ripley in a neatly pressed suit, shirt, tie, and hat on, and I thought, I'm having some of that. I'm having some of that. You know, I tell you, there's someone else as well, a fella called Doug McLeod, who was a great bluesman, but he tells stories in between. I think most of his are true, but having seen him and those 4 people, you see them and you think, this thing's going on here. So I kind of took notice of that. And
you describe yourself as a blues shouter. Is that different from a blues singer?
I don't think I've got particularly a singing voice, although it's not a sweet singing voice, it's more shouty. It's a phrase that I read somewhere and I thought, I can use that. I stole it from somewhere. There's nothing new, you just pick bits from everywhere, don't you? There isn't anything new out of it.
But so as well as your your solo stuff, you still this band still is in existence.
Yes, yeah, Rusty Nails. We need to get more gigs. It needs to play more often, so we need more gigs for Rusty Nails. But it's a great band. I mean, that's some sort of more modern guitar, electric guitar. But it's nothing like my solo stuff.
Sort of rhythm and bluesy stuff.
Yeah. That's great. Sean and Tony and Paul, the three members of the band, are fabulous. In fact, somebody once said to me one night, I played a gig, and they said, I want your job. Because what it is, well, you've got an ace band and all you do is have to stand up front making growling noise. You know, we didn't set out to write stuff. It was just, literally, it's four mates playing out. You know, it's a night out with your mates playing some music. So. I think that's what makes it good, because it's nobody's trying to, you know, we've gone out to have some fun, you know.
Do you all write together then?
Yeah, well, we'll go to rehearse and somebody will say, listen to this and just play a little bit, and then we'll run through it and jam along with it and say, don't do that, do this, what if we do this again, and then just play it, and if it works, if it rolls together in half an hour, it's a goer. And if it takes any longer than half an hour to work on it, it's way too complicated. It's no words, it's jazz.
And you're writing some songs for your own solo?
Yeah, this is something that I always say, I don't write. I know loads and loads of incredibly talented people that I've met in the past few years while I've been playing. And the songs they write, and you listen to them and you think, there's just no point in me doing it. I've got loads of things that I play, as warm-up stuff, and they're sort of half incomplete songs. There'll be a verse or a chorus thing there, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'll, you know, scribble some words, and then.
If I present you with a guitar, will you play one?
Well, there's no words.
Well, you can.
I can
this
play.
is a good time to start.
Well, I will.
Oh dear, we can't not do this, can we?
Of something that were I'm just messing about one night, but I kind of like that. There's no room here. It's full of strings. But yeah,
I'm going to have to ask you about guitars as well, because I know I have this. Every now and again, I see that there's pictures of you, and there's a rack which looks like there must be at least 5 or 6 guitars on it.
Oh well, you've got If I don't, I've got not a massive collection, but I've got quite a few instruments. Because I like buying them and collecting them. I've taken to unusual old ones now. Not necessarily expensive, but older ones. But if I don't take a good few out, my wife thinks I don't need them. Right. From an audience point of view, different guitar sounds different, played differently, it's tuned differently. It'll be a lap style thing, or an acoustic, or a resonator, and it just changes what the audience is hearing as well. So it's different for them as the night goes on. That tends to be my excuse anyway. I don't know about anybody else's.
Well, no. So you've got some gigs coming up over the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, I'm doing a few local things. Should be playing local to me. Dewsbury Socialists, which is a fine little venue. Saltburn Blues Club, yeah.
And you're supporting the Mentals.
So I'm told. Yeah,
that's what I was told too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So if a discerning music organiser wants you to play for them, how do they get in touch with you?
They could phone me.
They could. Do you have an email?
I have an email address, yeah.
Brilliant. Which is?
I've got. When I got this email address, right? When I got this email address, I didn't think I'd have to ever say it. Right? It's Martin Biglad, all one word. Martin Biglad at AOL.com, and you knew that. That's why you made me say it. Didn't it?
So
Martin Biglad at AOL.com.
Excellent. Definitely get in touch with Chris, because he's brilliant. Okay. Really, as I always, enjoyed chatting to you. It's been wonderful.